country can achieve sustainable economic growth and development without meaningful investment in its human capital.
And that's exactly why the government has been building capacity, especially in the use of technology. We'll hear more about that as Jamaica Magazine unfolds. Hello and welcome to the premier show for news, reviews and programs that help you to make meaningful decisions about your life. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. The show starts right now.
No, son. A verb is an action word.
Parents need to become more involved in their children's education.
Parents are the first and in many cases the most important teachers.
Read with your children. Review their schoolwork. Visit their school.
Tapping and rapping and slapping, I said.
Nice! High five! Woo!
A good education will never decay.
Good day, I'm Caroline Brown and this is your JIS News for Monday, June 23. Jamaica is set to receive another $70.9 million from the International Monetary Fund (IMF). That brings total disbursements to date to approximately $414.4 million. Details from Andrea Chisholm.
The decision by the Executive Board of the IMF to disburse more money to Jamaica follows its completion of an Article 4 or comprehensive review of the Jamaican economy. The board also confirmed statements by the IMF mission to Jamaica that the country had successfully completed all 4 tests on the year 1 of the extended fund facility. In a release, the multilateral agency said Jamaica's implementation of the IMF program was commendable and the achievement of a primary surplus in a short time was impressive. The fund added that the government's economic strategy would boost growth and employment, reduce debt, restore competitiveness, and strengthen the social safety net. The IMF added that full implementation of the program would bring about tangible benefits for Jamaica and its people. For GIS News, I'm Andrea Chisholm.
Government's decision to remove the import duty on solar panels to boost investment in renewable energy is reaping results. Fuel company Texaco has recorded significant savings after investing $5 million in a solar system at its Malines Road operation.
Well, we have the system for about 3 months, and we have been observing savings around from 25 to 50% on the electricity bill. By doing this project piloting in the service stations, we want to expand to the whole network and help the dealers reduce the expenses and contribute to their income as well.
State Minister in the Ministry of Science, Technology, Energy and Mining, Julian Robinson, added that low energy cost was important to business competitiveness.
I'm very happy that they have undertaken this initiative, and I'm sure with their partners we'll see many more other service stations and, more importantly, other businesses and consumers doing a similar initiative as this.
Improvement works on the Sandy Bay to Montpelier roadway in eastern Hanover will be completed in a few weeks. The $54 million project was initially slated for completion in March but was delayed due to a change in contractors. Under the project, drainage was improved, retaining walls constructed, and 3 kilometers of roadway widened and resurfaced. State Minister in the Ministry of Transport Works and Housing, Richard Azan, said safety barriers would also be erected and light poles would be relocated. Member of Parliament for Eastern Hanover, Dr. D.K. Duncan, is satisfied with the project.
If you listen to the citizens as you come up this road, you'll see that they are aware of the critical work that's been done and they are happy with it.
4 Jamaican students will pursue medical degrees in Cuba starting September under the Jamaica-Cuba Bilateral Scholarship Program. At the official presentation ceremony last week, State Minister in the Ministry of Science, Technology, Energy and Mining, Julian Robinson, expressed gratitude to the government and people of Cuba.
As a representative of the government and people of Jamaica, we are eternally grateful for this continued assistance, and we hope and urge that the beneficiaries of this program will come back to Jamaica to build, particularly in rural areas, to serve in areas that are currently underserved.
The Cuban ambassador to Jamaica, Bernardo Hernandez, also commended the students on their success.
They were successful because they have proved to meet the necessary requirements. Their parents must be very happy and proud.
Over 107 Jamaican youths are currently studying in Cuban universities under the Jamaica-Cuba Bilateral Scholarship Program. And finally, Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller is back in the island following her visit to her alma mater in Miami, Florida. The Prime Minister, who was the special guest at the Union Institute and University's 50th anniversary reception on Saturday, lauded the institution for its transformational approach to tertiary education. She said over the years, the institution has used a number of strategies to remain relevant.
Rethinking teaching and learning philosophies, modernizing governance mechanisms and outreach policy, and allowing for a holistic thinking approach throughout the university. That enabled you to adapt quicker to the changing higher education environment, which is what modern universities do.
Mrs. Simpson Miller added that these strategies created opportunities for busy professionals to pursue higher education while continuing to work in their businesses and communities. The Prime Minister also paid tribute to the late Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Professor Rex Nettleford, who recommended she pursue studies at Union Institute. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Carleen Brown. Thanks for watching.
Commuters, travel the route to excellence. Get your new JUTC Smarter Card today. It's not only safer, it'll also have you boarding faster and get you on your way quicker. Cards are available at JUTC sales offices, the JUTC Lay-By in St. Catherine, the JUTC Halfway Tree Transport Center, and the East Parade office in Kingston. Print and collect your own ticket. Find the value in the JUTC Smarter Card. It's the smart way to go.
State Minister Julian Robinson recently gave us an update and projections from the Ministry of Science, Technology, Energy and Mining in his sectoral presentation to Parliament. We have highlights of that speech next.
The Ministry of Science, Technology, Energy and Mining is positioning the Information and Communications Technology ICT sector as a viable enabler for growth and development. This is being done through several components, including human capital development, job creation, facilitation of new businesses through entrepreneurship, and streamlining business efficiency. State Minister Julian Robinson laid out the 2014-2015 plan in his presentation to the sectoral debate.
We have substantially advanced the agenda of using ICT as an enabler for development and growth in the country.
Contributing significantly to that is the continuous Digital Jam series, with the 3.0 Caribbean edition creating significant entrepreneurial opportunities and economic options for Jamaica's youth.
We have now established an angel investor network. What is that? That is a network of persons who will make investments, early stage investments, for young entrepreneurs who are developing apps and technology solutions.
A $20 million partnership has also been forged for a youth employment program in the digital and animation industries. This is to be approved shortly with two global players in the industries. Microsoft, meanwhile, has agreed to develop and bring to market the apps of two winning teams of Digital Jam 3.0, CrimeBot and Route 876. And more than 100 people are employed using the online training platforms MobileWorks and Crowdflower. Much more is happening outside the Digital Jam Forum. Young tech developers have been engaged to develop Android apps to support government's Tablets in Schools initiative. Through the EPIC Caribbean Mobile Innovation Project, Jamaica is to set up an M-Hub, or Mobile Hub, on the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies. The intention is to strengthen and encourage mobile innovation.
These are business incubator facilities that target the mobile app developer. They identify talented entrepreneurs with high growth potential ideas and recruit them for incubation.
Then there's Startup Jamaica, which will nurture the business acumen of young technology entrepreneurs.
There will be an intense program of training, mentorship, guidance, on financial issues, intellectual property, legal, etc. Once those companies graduate, so to speak, they are then in a position to go out there and seek equity funding from providers.
A boot camp is scheduled for September this year, with the launch set for between October and November. With the foundation being laid by these projects and the continued build-out of community access points, citizens will have better access to internet and facilities to harness their creativity. More is happening. $33 million has been allocated to outfit 6 special education schools with specialized computerized equipment this year.
A commitment, Mr. Speaker, to provide the technology so that many of the persons who are differently challenged have economic opportunities, because we do know that they don't have the same access to economic opportunities as most able-bodied persons.
6 subjects taught at these institutions will also be converted to sign language format using ICT platforms. Also on target for this year is the rollout of the Tablets in Schools pilot project for the new academic year. The first 38 schools have been identified and will begin getting the 25,000 tablets in August.
We have identified the applications to be used on the tablets. We have negotiated with the publishers to load the tablets, and we have signed contracts with 4 service providers for the provision of the tablets.
Another aspect of the growth agenda is the public sector modernization program. This looks at areas for cost-cutting and streamlining businesses to become more efficient and productive. ICTs are being used to achieve this, and as Minister Robinson points out, both the GovNet and broadband network programs are reaping success. Security and health are 2 of the areas already benefiting.
GOJ Health Card is already there. There's a laboratory information system. But all of these have to be supported by a backbone. And the island-wide broadband network is the backbone. And this will provide the Ministry of Health with the capacity to deliver and improve healthcare services across the country.
The Jamaica Constabulary Force, meanwhile, is now connected to an island-wide high-speed internet access. This should facilitate the efficient communication and transfer of critical information in real time to enhance crime fighting.
I mentioned these to indicate how, in a very practical and real sense, the investment in our infrastructure is meant to deliver public services to Jamaicans in a more effective and efficient manner.
Government is also looking at introducing a system that will cut telephone bills within the public sector.
We determined that in 2012, government spent approximately $8 million on government-to-government calls, and for data an additional $4 million. Just somebody in government calling somebody in government. So we're looking at, for example, a GovTalk system which will eliminate the need for all of these, particularly the cellular calls.
Jamaica is also expected to benefit significantly from an Internet Exchange Point IXP facility, which the Ministry of Science and Technology is expected to have in place by August.
It allows internet traffic to be routed within the country instead of being routed abroad. The implementation of an IXP will provide both cost savings and, importantly, increase the speed of internet access for providers in the market.
The ministry is currently working with an entity called Packaging Clearinghouse to get Jamaica's IXP up and running. With modern technologies enhancing business operations, creating new ones and providing employment, the ICT sector as it is now and with planned future improvements is a sure enabler for growth and development in Jamaica.
On March 25, 2014, the Employment Flexible Work Arrangements Miscellaneous Provisions Act was tabled in Parliament. It sets out to amend provisions relating to hours and days of work in several pieces of legislation to facilitate the implementation of flexible working arrangements in Jamaica. The end goal? to position the country's labor market to take advantage of investments and other economic opportunities. Flexi work is an alternate arrangement or schedule from the traditional Monday to Friday 9 to 5 working day or week. In principle, it allows individual employees and employers more room to choose when they start and end the workday or even which day of the week to work.
So it could be that a person could be starting at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, or it could be that the hours you work could be 8, it could be 10, it could be 12. Days of the week would no longer have to be just Monday to Friday. You could choose.
But does this mean that everyone will be on a flexi work system once the law is changed?
Flexible work arrangement is not for everybody, and we must emphasize that. So it's not going to be that every company will implement flexible work arrangements. Every company has to assess whether this will work in my particular organization, having regard to what I actually do as a business.
Since flexi work will not suit every organization, you might ask, what if I want to work flexible days and hours and the company I work for is not implementing it?
Well, flexible work arrangements, it's all about negotiation. The employer cannot force the worker to implement flexi work and to work flexi hours. The worker cannot force the employer to implement flexi work. It has to be discussion and agreement between the parties.
And what of those who would seek to implement it without negotiation?
If you choose to vary that contract, the worker can institute proceedings for breach of contract. And the same goes for the employer too if the worker tries to vary it without the agreement. Because right now, persons are under existing contracts of employment, which sets out their terms and their days of rest.
When the bill is passed, the Ministry of Labour will be monitoring all complaints, so persons who find themselves in this situation should report the matter to the Ministry's Pay and Conditions of Employment branch, and there is an office in each parish. Over 20 pieces of legislation are to be amended to facilitate the implementation of flexible work arrangements. The amendments will specify that the work week should consist of 40 hours and that overtime is to be computed after the employee has completed 40 hours of work. That means for those opting for Flexi Week, overtime will not begin after an 8-hour workday, but only when you have worked beyond your 40-hour work week. The bill will also increase the number of hours in a workday from 8 or 10 hours to a maximum of 12 hours, reflect that all 7 days of the week should be considered as possible working days, and make it lawful for women to work at night.
Well, the organization would now not be restricted in opening hours. They'd have more freedom to choose the opening hours that would best suit their needs, so they can increase their productivity and also their profits. The individual will be able to more balance work life with family life, could choose the work arrangements which would best actually mesh with their family obligations, like picking up children. And also they could earn more because it would allow you to choose to work for different people to actually get more money. For the nation, of course, if the businesses are actually producing more, individuals are actually earning more, employment has increased, and it would swell well for the nation.
Persons can choose from a range of flexi work options. One option allows for working part-time hours and is still earning benefits such as vacation and sick leave. Flexible time allows individuals and businesses to vary the start and end time of each workday. Persons can also telecommute, essentially working from a location other than the office, such as your home. And then there is the compressed work week. This is where you work your 40 hours over a 3 to 4 day period. But be careful not to fall below the threshold of 110 days worked to qualify for vacation leave entitlement.
A person who works for 3 days would have only worked for 156 days in the year. So they would still get vacation leave because they've passed the threshold of 110, but under the holidays with pay order. To obtain vacation leave of 2 weeks, you have to work under the statute for 220 days. So that gets you closer to somebody who works for 4 days for the week, for example.
And since all 7 days will be regarded as work days, what will pertain to working on public holidays?
The Flexi Work Arrangements Bill will not change any provisions Public General holidays and the payment of overtime to those workers. Persons under minimum wage will still be entitled to double time for working on holidays, and persons who work in shops. Other persons who are not minimum wage earners who don't work in shops, your contract will still govern how you are paid overtime, because that was always the case.
We are not about taking away people's rights. We are about trying to ensure that we organize work in such a way that Jamaica can be competitive.
And what we need to do is to ensure that we don't delay any further so we can take full advantage of the opportunities being offered to us for growth, development, and prosperity.
So there is nothing to prevent any company today from looking at their operations, looking at their markets, and making a determination as to what is the best production fit for their business.
In the meantime, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security continues to invite national input with public forums and education campaigns.
Nutritious food, succulent dishes, superior workmanship, and excellent service. Jamaica is on the go. Let's grow what we eat and eat what we grow. Let's harness the indomitable spirit of our most valued resource, our people. Let's support our local businesses. After all, buying Jamaican means building Jamaica.
We're in the hurricane season, and even as we encourage you to be prepared for any eventuality, listen now to government's overall plans to ensure that the Jamaican environment is safe, comfortable, and secure for its people.
Well, it's all about Jamaica.
Vision 2030 Jamaica, a plan for Jamaica developed by Jamaicans. The island's first strategic long-term national development plan with the aim of enabling our country to achieve developed country status by the year 2030. Making Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families and do business requires the right mix of social, economic, governance and environmental factors. All four are intertwined. They depend on each other and none can be fully achieved without the other. The first national goal involves empowering Jamaicans to achieve their fullest potential. It's tied to Goal 2, which speaks to Jamaica having a society that is secure, cohesive and just. Both goals depend on Goal 3, which speaks to Jamaica having a prosperous economy. But none of these can be achieved without Goal 4, a healthy, natural environment.
When we achieve it, it will be worth it. A lot more benefits for each and every one.
By 2030, we want to ensure that we have a healthy natural environment. How are we going to get there? We have 3 national outcomes that we want to pursue or that we are pursuing.
The first national outcome under Goal 4 of Vision 2030 Jamaica is the sustainable management and use of Jamaica's environmental and natural resources. Achieving this involves including environmental issues in all economic and social policies, increasing public awareness, and developing, implementing, and enforcing environmental laws, standards, and codes of good practice. Hazard risk reduction and adaptation to climate change is another pillar of Goal number 4. To achieve this outcome, Jamaica will need to improve the design of settlements and facilities to withstand the impact of hazards and implement a comprehensive disaster management program, as well as measures to improve how we adapt to climate change. And the final plank of Goal 4 under Vision 2030 Jamaica is sustainable urban and rural development. This will demand promoting proper planning for land use and development, economic growth and development in rural areas, the design and development of environmentally sustainable communities, and safe, sanitary, affordable shelter for all Jamaicans.
Where are we today? Under this particular goal, we have mixed progress.
Jamaica has faced some challenges in effectively managing its natural environment and resources, but in recent years there have been marked improvements in this area. The recently released State of the Environment report revealed an increased focus on improving environmental management in Jamaica. This has been achieved through the creation and enforcement of standards, policies and regulations, as well as heightened environmental monitoring and greater public awareness. Improvements were also made in key elements of biodiversity, including new fish sanctuaries and more prosecutions under the Wildlife Protection Act. The State of the Environment report also showed improvements in air and water quality. Waste management is also improving, with waste management and recycling programs leading to a reduction in the amount of waste generated per person in Jamaica. Policies are now being formulated to address hazardous, medical, electronic, and white wastes. To ensure that development is in line with the island's ecosystem, the government has begun to conduct natural resource valuations that will become part of the environmental impact assessment process. On the matter of challenges identified in the area of disaster risk reduction and climate change,
we're talking about knowledge and awareness raising. We're talking about the legislation that needs, the legislative infrastructure that needs to be upgraded and enforced to ensure that people are not placed into very environmentally sensitive areas that leads to disaster scenarios.
Over the last 10 years, the government has made progress in raising awareness at the community and national levels on the ways in which we can reduce hazard impacts. On the legislative side, the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, is carrying out a review of the disaster management legislation of 1993.
The new act is going to be more comprehensive and will reflect a greater relationship between the environment, planning, and hazards. So the NEPA acts, the environmental acts that are having to be looked at will certainly improve the whole spectrum of disaster risk management.
Weaknesses in the physical and spatial planning system, poor land use practices, squatting and rural-urban drift are all being addressed to enhance Jamaica's sustainable urban and rural development prospects. Many changes are on the horizon. Vision 2030 Jamaica proposes to create a dynamic system of spatial planning that will effectively support urban and rural development towards economic prosperity for all parishes.
The government's plan to really look at the local government reform process is a critical plank of addressing that urban-rural problem, so to speak. And so we have to get that right, because at the end of the day, the local authorities are really supposed to be that first point of managing the space, whether it is the urban space or the rural space, and really is to bring to board the whole nexus between environmental sustainability, disaster risk reduction, and sound development planning at the local level.
Even as Goal 4 is being monitored, implemented and evaluated, the importance of the various government ministries, departments and agencies, as well as the private sector and civil society, are crucial to the success of Vision 2030 Jamaica. Remember, we all have to do our part in ensuring that Jamaica has a healthy natural environment. Let us protect the island's flora and fauna and manage natural hazards while keeping our surroundings clean and free from pollution, as we continue on our journey to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families and do business.
It's for each and every one. We're going to show the world we are more than see and stand. Through Vision 2030 Jamaica plan.
And that's it for today's edition of Jamaica Magazine. We're here to serve you, so please continue to send your questions and comments to jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. You may also view more Jamaica Magazine content online at jis.gov.jm or facebook.com/Jamaica Information Service. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson, reminding you to plan for disasters in advance and give yourself a fighting chance.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.